All right, thank you. Anyway, good morning, everyone.
Good
And
morning.
my apologies for technical things that happened early in the morning. Um, I wanted to say welcome to everyone. I think everyone that's here today was here last time, so we have no new members that are here. And Ainsley, if you wouldn't mind, can you share your screen for the notes from the last meeting? And then we can walk through that and see if there's any revisions to those notes.
Did everybody get the notes that we sent out?
Yeah. And you're not counting these as formal minutes, right?
Pardon?
You're not counting these as formal minutes to the commission, are you? These are just notes for us.
We want to see if anybody wants to correct them, and then it'll become a matter of record for us.
Okay. So I know that those got sent out to you a couple days ago. I hope you had a chance to look them over. Was there anything that you'd like that we need to clarify or to correct? Ainsley, did you do this with an AI or did you actually do this?
I actually did this.
Oh.
Yeah, we took notes and back and forth. She did a couple of them. I did one of them from the two groups, and just went back and forth, and from our notes and from the recorded stuff, we tried to capture as much as possible.
Good. And are we recording today or not?
Yes.
We can do that. Yes, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful. That makes it easier for you, I think, too. And for people that couldn't be here this morning. Okay, hearing none. I don't hear any corrections or edits to the notes, meeting minutes. Correct? All right. Let's move on then. We know that Steve sent to Director Rubin a couple weeks ago, right? Probably right after our subcommittee meetings, a request for data. And I know that the director was probably a little overwhelmed by all the data that we asked for, but they responded with partial data. And Ainsley, if you can pop that up too, because I think that there were quite a few sections that they weren't able to get the data yet. So I see. Good morning, Danielle. There may be some pieces that you can fill in or not. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think they were trying to get some on-site data that they hadn't been able to get yet. So when we get that out, we'll scroll through that too. Now that was also sent to you as well. Did anybody have any initial comments while that's being popped up?
I guess my one comment is there's a lot of being formatted stuff, but there's no indication about when we get what's being formatted.
Yeah. I know in one of her correspondence, she said something like they would need a month, but it's already been 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't know if that's after that or not. Do you talk to her, not regularly, but do you talk to her or see her?
I don't. I communicate with her with email, but not very much.
Yeah. Well, maybe after this meeting, we can say that the subgroup met and we had some questions, or when would the remainder of the data be available?
I will definitely do that.
Thank you. To the rest of our work group, are there any questions or any surprises? And you can see on there, particularly in the area of, can you make that any bigger, Ainsley? I'm in my screen. I've got my glasses on there. Thank you. Much better. Again, why don't we scroll down and see if there's any particular questions or comments for any of those? I think the biggest one is.
I thought it interesting on that first chart. I thought there would be more people. I mean, I don't know if it's in this first chart that were ready to be college ready. Yeah, it's such a small number. People who score that high, which I don't think the college people realize. And I found out talking with higher ed people that if you have a GED or high school diploma, they enroll you, and then they'll do preparation courses for you, which I think is a good thing. But I would have thought we had more people getting higher scores. But that's my observation.
Danielle, I see your hand.
Just as a point of 2 things. So that score, you have to have 165 to be considered college ready. You only need a 145 to actually pass the test.
Mm-hmm.
So when prior to 2014, the scores were, a lot higher, but since the new test, due to its rigorousness, and then also the fact that you have to do it on a computer, that has limited because of access to computers. One of the things that labor is having some discussions about, and we've actually agreed to buy, is additional computers, but then they need to get the software on the computers to be able to give the students the opportunity to learn how to type their essay up, how to use a computer and that sort of thing. They were using Mavis Beacon for a while, but then Mavis Beacon stopped giving out the standalone version of it. So it's now like only fully online. So we can't even use Mavis Beacon anymore as an option. So that is something I have suggested that they look into another program that could actually help them be able to, pass the test with higher scores. So
Danielle, if I
Does
may,
Mavis Beacon make it offline version anymore? We used to use Mavis Beacon, but it was something we could download onto the unit.
yeah, they
itself.
don't make a download version anymore. It's only online.
Yeah, of
but-
course.
That happened a couple years back. Yeah.
but don't the companies like Aztec and Essential Ed, which I think you guys are, some places have been using that, have mock tests on the computers in the classroom when you're using it?
Aztec does have a standalone version, but they do not have that.
Oh.
Essential Ed, they do have, but it's on the tablets, and there's no keyboard on the tablet.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
that's the issue. If they're only using the tablets, they're not getting that
Experience, yeah.
experience right with the keyboard.
So basically, they're going in computer illiterate sometimes to take these tests.
Some
Or
are, yeah.
Functionally illiterate with computers, so let's
Yep.
say.
Yep. So, a lot of them are either not passing the first time around, unless they're younger and they might have been in high school recently, right? So then they do have that experience. Plus, they have been out in the world that is all technical right now. So a lot of the young people, they don't have an issue. It's
Okay.
those who've been incarcerated. My second thing is, there's none of this data talks about actually how many GEDs they got. Now, we pulled a lot of that from the reports, right, from the CEC reports, but they didn't actually send a chart. Like, it would be nice to have it in all one place, right? Like a chart that has, here's all the years that labor did correctional ed from 2008 to 2025 and how many GEDs were for each year. So then we could look at that compared to this, right? To see.
Well, we've put together some charts like that, so we have that a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe we could take that and combine it with this, right? And do okay, so they
Usually
are,
put that together on charts we were previously showed.
there we
Also-
go. Ainsley said she could do it, so that's good.
Oh, it's great.
And also, while we're talking about what, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but the total population that comes in with the high school diploma or GED, how many people there are that come into the system, and how many people who don't have a high school diploma or GED, once they get in, end up getting one while they're incarcerated. And I know you've been working on stuff like that, there's, so that would be great too, because we really need to know how many people, we've asked this many times in our meetings, how many people come in with a high school diploma, how many people get it while they're there. We need those comparisons, and we still don't have that, but I know it's possible.
Yeah, and I got some rough data, which I, sent you and Ainsley about that. But
Right.
the problem with it is that when people come in at intake, we ask them if they have a high school diploma or GED. Some say yes, and we verify it, right? And when we verify it, we put a little ticker on their OCMS record for case management that says, it's an alert that says GED / HSD verified. The problem with that is when they get their GED while incarcerated, we also go in and we flag that alert that says GED verified. So we are not tracking them separately, we're tracking them together. So then we're not able to see. The only way that we can do it is take and get labor's data of how many they got, how many GEDs they got, subtract it from that alert to see how many actually came in with the GED. However, what I've learned is they don't all the time. Sometimes they'll give them a GED, like a piece of paper. Here's my GED or high school diploma, but it's not always real. And unless they go to the principal and say, hey, can you verify that this is actually real? Some of them they make copies of and put their names on. So, and we know that, Diana knows this happened. We all know it happens, you
Right.
know. So that data I have, that raw data about that is kind of iffy, right? And you're right, Steve, it is bad, that data that I sent you.
Yeah,
It is very telling. Yeah.
If I may, with the data she's talking about, what she has just recently shared, is we've got probably 50,000 people since 2008, 50 some thousand people from 2008 till 2024 who came in without a high school diploma or GED, and only 10% of those people have attained a high school diploma while incarcerated. So that leaves 40 some thousand people come through the system and don't get their high school diploma. I guess you need to cut that by other factors, like what the sense of their sentence length is,
Right.
what their charges are, what is their age, and all that, to see where we're falling down. But I just think it's terrible that we're finding out just from that raw data that most people do not have a high school completion coming into the system by, and those that don't, only 10% ever attain it, which means only 10% can take vocational and career or
Right.
college.
That's the gatekeeper, right? For
Right.
in terms of our subgroup work,
I
right?
want to clean
Correct.
that. I want to clean that data up and demonstrate it in the next week or two if we can. So I want to talk to you more, Danielle. We'll share it with everybody when we can, or Danielle, you can share it.
Yeah. No,
With-
what I
with
sent you,
caveats.
you can share out.
I'll put caveats on it saying it's not cleaned up yet, but this is rough data.
Yeah, it's rough, but it's.
I guess my
Or the
delusion.
best that you have, probably.
Correct. It's the best that
Yeah.
we can, get from the way that it's being collected, right? So, yeah.
I guess-
Ainsley, can you scroll down a little bit so we can see some of the other sections and move on a little bit here?
Let me just say one more thing, Diane, then I'll be quiet.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, you be quiet.
It was my illusion or delusion that half the people coming in had high school diplomas or so. Maybe less than half, a little more than half. That's been a national trend. But if it looks like Maryland, that's not the case at all from that data. Go ahead.
Renee, was that your hand up or that was you? Oh, okay. Oh, somebody else. Okay. Adam, please. I see your hand.
Yes, I just see that I have the occupational waitlist information. I just received it for MCE. I don't know if maybe I can send it to Ansley and she can share that, or
Can you make a couple comments about it in general?
I'm sorry.
Can you give us a little feedback right now, or send it to her as well? Or do you know?
I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
So when you mean occupational waitlist, is that specific to MCE, people who are waiting
Yes.
to get an MCE? Okay, so that's separate from like occupational classes done by labor, right?
It
I would
also,
Is that what this occupational waitlist is for?
Yes, so this
Yes,
one is specific
that's-
to the
yeah.
Department of Labor, but it would be super helpful for this worker again to look for
Yeah.
the MCE waitlist as well.
because if they are getting an MCE, then they have to have their GED or high school diploma, right? So
Yeah,
like,
it's
yeah,
another way.
good, yeah.
It's not going to lead anywhere, but it does give a little bit of credence to how many people have it.
I guess the easy question is, do you have a significant wait list for your programs?
Oh, let's see. So I just have the information from July to January.
Yeah.
And this comes from case management. On average, we have 264 in that period per month. Yeah, across the state of Maryland. It looks like our most, like for instance, in January of 2025, there were 97 people on the wait list at ECI. That is the most significant.
Mm,
And then at MCIJ, there's one.
okay. So for the purposes of our group, is that the best data that is available, or should we request that we get additional data or additional clarification?
Well, it depends what kind of information would you be looking for. I mean, we can ask case management.
Okay.
I have a question. What
Also, Anne has a question too. Let's
go
do
ahead,
Anne's
Ann.
Sorry, I'm not feeling fantastic today. So what I'm wondering is if there's a way in any of this to tell how fast the wait lists are moving. And I'm just gonna pull like ECI East as a, as an example. Like you've got 98 and then you have 107, but I don't know if any of those original 98 moved. I mean, it could be that whole 98 moved and we've got a new 107, or it could be that 0 people progressed and we're just dumping more on top.
Right.
Adam,
So
do you have any idea about that or not?
Well, again, this information is kept by case management. So
Okay.
if you want that information, you have to tell me what you're looking for, and then we can request it on behalf of MCE to case management.
Okay. I think to Anne's point, that would be a good thing for us to have an idea about, because MCE people tend to be longer, and once they get their good job, they don't want to move. So
Well, they could. I mean, I can definitely get you like anecdotal at the shop level, but I'm just trying to figure out a way to
Okay.
quantify it.
yeah.
any way you can
If you can, yes, Steve, go ahead.
any way you can classify it would be terrific and get it back to us. Just even if it's informative, say it's just the best data we have. It's anecdotal. But the other question I have, and you're partially answering it, is from Ruben's responses here. It's who is actually responsible for all these waiting lists. She's been saying that it comes from the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. Case management would be part of that, but doesn't education then get these lists and maintain them? I mean, there's a big question about who's handling these things and how they, if you have, for example, the 107 that Andrews pointed out, that's a waiting list at ECI for academic. Okay. What's the occupation? We don't have anything for other than what you tell us about occupational wait list. And we need to really kind of know that. But and then these not collected things are bothersome especially for vocational. Look at all this not,
Right.
he's collecting it, So anyway.
John, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Steve just said and what Adam just said. Data collection is a big issue. And the question that formed in my mind, which Steve just kind of asked, was, whose responsibility is it really to manage all of this data? Is it DPSCS or is it Department of Labor? DPSCS, I mean, the case management, they do their job, right? So they pass information down to the education departments at the institutions. But in my experience, at least at DCI, what I've seen is a varying response in how that information is handled. Years ago, the education department handled that information marvelously. They did all the tracking that we're talking about here. They could tell you who was on a waiting list, how long they were on the waiting list, and how quickly this waiting list turned around. But then as staff rolls over within the Department of Labor, the principal that I worked for years ago is not there today, and they're now on their 3rd or 4th principal since then. Just prior to me leaving ECI, the occupational waiting lists for their shops, their carpentry shop, their masonry shop, etc., wasn't managed by the education office there. It was managed by the individual teachers. So if an incarcerated individual wanted to sign up for a shop and he wrote to the principal's office, he got no response. But if he wrote directly to the carpentry teacher and said, "Hey, carpentry teacher, can I get into your shop?" he got a response. And that's kind of counterintuitive to what the inmate population understands about how you're supposed to go, get into programs like this. High school diplomas and GEDs, the verification process was spotty at best recently compared to years past. So there seems to be an issue of data collection and management at the Department of Labor side more so than the DPSCS side, which is why I think it explains, the holes or the gaps that we see in this data here, because no one's really properly collecting it. And again, at ECI, they have an administrative assistant working in the education department, but she's part-time. She's shared between the east and the west side. And so she's got 1 or 2 days a week on the east side and then 1 or 2 days a week on the west side. So she doesn't have enough time on either side to properly collect and collate all this data anyway. So I'm just wondering if that's, a larger issue that we need to address.
Thank you for that feedback. I think we're all feeling the same way. So, but thank you for actually having real experience with that, John. Sad, but true. But anyway, well, so that goes to our other point. Do we have all the data that we need? And so the answer is obviously not. Ainsley, can you scroll down a little bit more and then see if there's a category that we've missed? That special ed will be dealt with by somebody else, the other work group.
Yeah, we started doing that a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see if there's others that relate to.
Hang on, but can you go back just more slowly? Just that stop there, say it's special ed, okay, and then go next one, please. So we've got, all right, monthly enrollment by list, data to be formatted, attendance, data to be formatted. I mean,
I was looking for the transition certificates or the reentry preparation.
Yeah, then that's that one there. Yeah, troublesome.
Yeah. So, so again, that's an area that is not, they're not ready for employment.
Diana, clarification. I'm going to send her a thing about when is this data going to be formatted, but did you guys want me, as a result of today's meeting, to put a few more questions as like any I mean, I hate to ask her, but I don't know, if I said to Ruben, Director Ruben, what happened between 2023 and 24 with the transition certificates? Why the 50% drop or so? And I don't know what, I mean, do you want me to ask her something like that? Or?
Of course, please. It's probably staffing, I would guess, but we need to know what that is. But again, that has to do with all the reentry preparation and stuff. So is there, what's next? Is there a little bit more, Ainsley?
I think John has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. I can't see it. Thank you very much. Yes, John, go ahead.
I do. In response to Steve's query there about the difference between 2023 and 2024, I think the answer is staffing. And I think it's DLR staffing. Again, drawing on my experience at ECI, in 2023, ECI East had an ERW instructor. During 2024, they did not. Mm-hmm. And so the ERW class wasn't running. Mm-hmm. That directly translates into less, transitional certificates because the ERW class isn't happening. And, the library can't make up the difference there in whatever programming that they do. To further exacerbate the problem, and when you go back prior to COVID, not only was ERW running, but they also had a contract with Goodwill Industries of the Chesapeake to run a separate job readiness program that was similar to ERW, but had more of a resume and interviewing focus to it. And ECI counted that in their transition certificate awards as well. Mm-hmm. So they had kind of like a double effort and the numbers make sense to that. You're looking at 2019 with 2,370 certificates awarded, 2018 with almost 3,000 certificates awarded. I know that's statewide, but at least ECI's contribution, was, a significant part of that. Fast forward to today, none of that's happening. And I don't know how the other institutions are faring with their ERW instructors, but I do believe it is a staffing issue on DLR's part.
My other question, John, since you've been there more recently than the rest of us, does the library at ECI still have a partial career center, or has that kind of been defunct?
They do, and they have an incarcerated individual whose job there is to staff it, but its presence doesn't always work. There are 3 quote unquote internet connected computers in there that have access to the Maryland Workforce Exchange,
Yeah.
and a couple of other job search sites. 2 of the 3 computers don't work.
Got it.
And the one that does is incredibly slow because the common excuse is always that the ECI firewall was so burdensome that nothing could get through it anyway.
Well, those are probably computers that I had installed, 15 years ago. So, but Steve, maybe one of the other questions is that would be on a statewide basis, for the transition question, but also what institutions still have some form of career center, either hooked to the workforce, the Career One Stop or not. Because I know at MCIW, there was some little bit there. It would come and go, frankly.
So you want to explain the Career Center just a little bit to everybody?
Sure. Sometimes it was in the ERW classroom, so that other people could access it. Other times when there was a real library, there would be resources. And as John said, there was usually a clerk that would staff it. And they were a knowledgeable, mostly trained clerk that did a really nice job for the most part.
And
But that was not in all the institutions.
And so how do you spell it, Claire? Just as a
The Career Center.
Oh, I'm I'm old and I'm hard of hearing. So Career Center, okay.
Right, and that's either hooked up to
I never
the
heard of
Career
Career
One Stop
Center.
or some Department of Labor could access job sites. Adam, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to potentially clarify something, unless this is old. I believe that according to COMAR, the Division of Corrections and Case Management is responsible for tracking down education. So if it's a question of who is supposed to do what, it's certainly under the Division of Corrections. If there are issues getting that information, then that's another conversation, but the responsibility by law lies with the DOC and Case Management.
For what? For tracking what?
Education.
For verifying education, or for tracking their education while incarcerated?
It says inmate case record. G states, the division shall maintain a record and history for each inmate that includes school records.
Yeah, the principals, anytime they get a certificate or anything like that, a copy of it is sent and it's put in their base file.
And then under 2, it says the division shall work with state and local officials to obtain information for the inmate case record. They get it from labor. Yeah. They don't track down though, like if somebody has GED or high school diploma, that's done through labor and education because they have the
records.
They're certified teachers, so they're able to grab from like public school systems and stuff like that in the GED office.
But it's the responsibility of case management to get the records from the Department of Labor.
Correct. So they send it then to them and put it into the base file. Yep.
So if we don't have that information, then it's not. Then where is the issue? Is it that the Department of Labor isn't getting it, or that case management isn't reaching out?
Which information?
Any information.
Their educational record.
We have the educational record, like whatever they put into CE student, that is an automatic download into OCMS. So, and then we get the actual certificate to put into the base file. For a very long time though, Labor's CE student system was not filtering into OCMS. We found this out about a year and a half ago, and we fixed the issue, and it is now talking to each other now. However, if we don't get it from Labor, or if that system's not working or something like that, we can't always track if we're not getting the information correctly. We don't know if it's correct or not. We're just asking for it and getting it. So Yeah.
I have a question that, okay, there's two real crucial pieces of information from the outside, from the school systems. One is, do they have a high school diploma or not? Because there's also special ed information. I'm not counting that right now. And the GED. Labor has the GED office. So
Correct.
theoretically, they can walk down the hall or go another floor and get on the phone, get that information.
Right.
Person has or has not gotten a GED and
Yep.
went somewhere. The high school, and this is what I remember, it used to be, there was a connection to every school system in the state.
Correct.
To be able to, so they could call, they didn't have to get permission, it's all set up, say, did Joe Blow from Calvert County graduate from high school or not?
No, they have to get permission. Like now it's required, like they have to have a permission from the student or from the
Okay,
II.
but okay, so they get it from the student, I understand, I'm sorry,
Yeah, and then they send that.
but
form
what they said
to
that the school system will answer that.
Correct.
Okay,
Now, some school systems
may
are
not.
very unreasonable and they want you to pay a fee and they want this. And we've had to deal with MSDE to get them involved to get the actual record. And some schools are shut down, no longer exist. So and if it's been 30, 40 years and that school doesn't exist, even MSDE doesn't have the record anymore.
Well,
because they switched over systems and those were paper files that are no longer, it went into their computer system. But if the school no longer exists anymore, there was like kind of a lack of data.
Theoretically, the school system would have all the records theoretically anyway.
Yeah.
If the school exists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, most of the people coming in are within a couple decades, I would hope.
Oh, anybody who like we're finding anybody who is about 40 and over, we're having a hard time getting records.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me
Lots
go
of-
back. There's a couple things in the chat box that I think are significant. And one, Danielle was reminding us that labor lost half their transition contractual positions. That answers the staffing question. Some of those had been state positions. They'd been state pins. So they were
None
either
of them are state pins anymore. They
anymore.
have been
Sure.
for years.
Which
They're all
is
contractual.
which is too bad. So
Yeah.
that may be part of our recommendation. And if we're looking
Yep.
at stability of reentry and preparation, that they need to be state pins.
Yep.
And then Ann asked, is that the drop between fiscal year 22 and 23? And I think that's the transition.
23-24 should probably mean.
Yeah.
Yep, that's when it moved from the colleges over to labor taking and managing the contractual positions. And when that happened, it was a money flow, a budget issue, and they cut half.
Wait a minute. So go through that again. It was moved from where to where?
So the contractual positions used to be through the community colleges, Anne Arundel, Warwick, and Hagerstown. That no longer exists. It is now maintained under labor. They're labor contractual pins. Contractual pins is what they're called, but they're still contractual.
Oh,
And because of money and budget issues, many of them were cut.
So
Okay.
so she's seeing somewhere, I don't know where it is, but is it correct that there's only 34 teachers? Is that right? And I don't,
For transition,
that's probably more than you have.
yeah, that's way more than I am.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that's,
Yeah.
and where did you see the 34?
If you scroll down, there is it's still on this page. Here you go, right there. That you're there. That's it right there. See how you have contractual up there,
Oh.
and then you have that
34, I got you.
asterisk, and it's dropped to 34 with the contracts. So it was
Now-
like we lost half, and then we lost almost another half of that half. So
Yep.
that's
So those 34 are not all transition though. Some of them are academic, some are occupational. So the transition, I think they're down to less than 10 transition positions at this point.
So if you keep that chart there, the contractual at the top includes, is that only the transition people, those 34? Or are there
No,
other
no,
contractual?
There's academic and occupational in that 34 too.
And so and then out of that 34, how many would be transitional, we think, at that point? Or
Oh, it's less than 10. It might be close to like 5. There
okay,
might be about 10 positions that are available, but only like half of those are filled. And they're
Okay.
sharing them in different, they're going to different facilities because they to be able to share.
Well,
A lot of them are being placed at like pre-releases.
okay, so if we look at the data for
Yeah.
just the last 3 years, there's been a real drop here because you go from 129 or so state positions to 132. If those are pins, I presume they're now 127. So we've got some kind of drop there. But the contractual is a big drop from 56 to 34 and the rest are teachers down 3, librarians 10, administrators down 4, principals, whatever. So we've seen that's, if you look back, the numbers are, well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to see. The best numbers were around 20, FY20. I don't know.
Even the state pins are dropping.
State pins were highest in 21,
Um,
23.
no, they were highest down in around like 2014, 13,
Right,
14.
but on this chart here,
Oh, in the chart?
we
Yeah.
don't have, we have 16 here. So I know from
Yeah.
previous charts we have that we had many more pins. We
Oh,
need
yeah.
to find that out too.
They've lost over that 10-year period, probably a good 15 to 20 pins.
Right.
It's actually closer to 20 to 25 in that 15-year period between like 2014.
All right, here's the $64,000 question, which is not very, not a big prize anymore. But why? I mean, it's been relatively, economic times have been relatively stable. You know, if you go back to 2008, 2009, 10, we had a big financial issue all over the country. But after that, so why are we losing all these positions and all these contracts? Who's taking them away? The state's taking them away?
Yeah.
Are they being shifted to other places?
No, like, so basically it's DBAM, Department of Budget and Management, goes to each of the state agencies and says, you need to cut pins because we don't have the money to cover it. That's where they take from first, is open pins that have not been filled. So they look at which ones have been open for the longest. And typically it is the occupational and transitional teacher positions usually are open the longest. So if they were open longer than a year, so they hadn't been filled in over a year, they were cut. And because the correctional ed, typically it takes longer for us to fill positions, they cut ours. We were the first ones they came to and cut.
Okay, so
I'm
just going to try to say this is not meant to be political, but there was a transition of governors in FY22. And Hogan was notorious for not filling positions, for, saving money by attrition and stuff. So, I mean, we had 8 years of another administration, and I'm not gonna get into their politics and saying nasty things about Hogan. He was a good guy and all that. But I mean, I know from we saw enough of that. So that's not the fault of labor per se. That's fault of the administration.
Correct.
The Department of Budget and Management order to cut things.
I will tell you, in 2019, FY19, that's when I took over as director at labor. I literally begged and pleaded for them not to take pins from us. I was like, you've taken 10 in 1 year. So that was FY18, the year before I started, and begged the 2019 and 20. We actually got 2 pins back then in 21 because it was COVID. We were seriously having some issues, and they finally gave us 2 for those were contractual positions, or I'm sorry, occupational positions that we really needed. And then they actually gave, it looks like in 2024, but then they took away again. So,
Okay. So we need to clarify that. So that's good. I mean, Diane, you got a lot more to do but so I'm going to stop right there with this.
Yeah. And Ainsley, you got your hand up, please.
Yeah, so I think one thing that might be helpful for this conversation is, I know we're talking about staff as a whole, but when it comes to occupational staff, like the people who are running the occupational programs, according to the CEC reports, we actually are seeing we're seeing an increase. It was 33 instructors in 2011, and as of 2023 there was 45. So I think it might be more helpful to more talk about like occupational staff rather than staff as a whole, 'Cause I
Yeah, it'd be
think that
nice
will
to see them
help.
break that down, that teacher line, like academic, occupational, and transitional, maybe to see, well, transitional is in your contractual line. So teachers, just academic and occupational. So
So
maybe they can separate those out.
yeah, I mean, my
Ainsley, where did you get those numbers? I heard you say
so
that CEC.
CEC reports.
yes, so we do have a lot of information from those CEC reports about staffing. Like, I don't know if we necessarily have to go back to labor with that. I mean, we could. I think that it might be helpful.
Yeah,
to
if
get
you
like,
can pull it from that instead
Yeah.
of going back to them, that might be a good idea.
I tell you what,
Yeah.
Ainsley and I will talk about this because I got piles and piles of these CEC reports and stuff, and they got stored on the computer, and I printed a lot of stuff to go through on this PIN stuff and contractual stuff and break down by academic and vocational. And then I won't send any questions to Ruben until we sift through that a little bit better. But we will ask some questions about how can you break this chart down better? I don't know if Ainsley's putting up stuff there right now. I don't know. But we'll study this a little bit better and to ask questions. But we do need to ask her. I'll ask her some early questions and maybe tell her we've got a few more we're going to ask her. I'll get off a letter in the next couple of days.
Thank you.
And I may be back with you, Diane. Ainsley and I may be back with you as we do that first.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Somebody's ringing my doorbell. I expect them to pay. Right back.
Ainsley, thank you for bringing that to our attention. There's just so many numbers
Ainsley,
all at
what's
once, they're all in different places. It's hard to keep
Yeah.
track.
Ainsley, what's the difference between the two instructor lines that are highlighted?
Oh, so one of them is occupational instructors, and then the other one is transition services. Just because.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Um,
All right. Yeah. That's thanks.
and I
agree.
think, yeah, no, it's all good. And like, if we do want to go back to labor, like I think it would be valuable to hear like official numbers, right? But we do have some.
We don't have anything
the
from
CEC.
15 to 19 or 15 to 18. There's nothing for those years for
So,
occupation.
yeah, that wasn't reported in the CEC reports for those years.
So maybe we can go back and ask those. Yeah.
I think that's good.
Okay.
What do you want me to ask on that? What was the last question I just missed? I was answering the door.
The years 15 through 18, what's the instructor? Yeah, that gap.
Yeah, that occupational. And you can see so clearly here the transitional, how it went from 22 to 9.
Okay. Ainsley and I'll go over that one. Okay, thank you.
That's in 10, like I said, yeah.
I got to move my truck. There's a guy from the county outside chopping trees, dropping down branches, and I got
Chopping trees.
He's gonna drop it on my truck if I don't get out there. I'll be back in a minute.
It's not funny, but let's also do a time check because I have a call with one of my grantees at 10. But I think we've got a lot of information. But I wanted to see, Renee had to step away. I didn't know if anybody else who hadn't had a chance to say anything today had some feedback or something they wanted to add. But
Sure,
I think
I thought you retired, Diana.
what? No, no. This week, and this may be the end soon. I'm a coach for the U.S. Department of Labor for reentry programs, but they haven't canned us yet. So, but it's only part time.
Oh,
So
good luck.
yes. Again, but I am retired from the state, so I'm not going to be on food stamps. But this other thing has been crazy for most people. But in fact, one of the contracts working with the apprenticeship programs, they slammed it shut overnight, like
Right.
2 weeks ago.
Well, and that's a good thing to even in this space to talk about. Like the Department of Labor, their entire occupational training programs are funded by the feds. It is all federal. It's all Perkins money.
Yep.
So if the federal government, there was a 2-day period when they cut all grants that we were all in panic mode. Like it was none of our education programs were going to be funded, but academic, occupational, post-secondary, it was horrible. And then when they finally came back and said we're good, it was like somewhat of a relief, but we're still on edge because none of us know, like at any minute, half the people I know from the feds have been cut or put on administrative leave, paid administrative leave. So because they went to a DEI training in March of 2024 that was required. And the bad part about it is every single one of them are minority or LGBTQ, every single one. And that is horrible.
There's no Office of Civil Rights anymore this week.
I know, because that's gone.
And
And there's nothing they can do because they're getting paid, even though they took all their stuff. They took all their, it's bad, Diana. So I feel for you. I
What's the
really do.
latest? What did I miss?
Nothing.
We were just saying
Adam's-
about the programs, and if the federal stuff is going on, all of our programs, it's up in the air whether or not we're going to even have any money to continue. It's bad.
There's Title I, there's Adult Ed, there's
There's
special.
Perkins
there's
for occupational.
right.
There's our grants for
Grant.
post-secondary.
Right.
We're all on edge and just working day to day.
Adam, you had a comment? Sorry, we went down the DOL rabbit hole. Sorry. Can't hear you, Adam.
It's more of a, I guess, more of a, so if are inmates required to participate in mandatory educational and workforce skill training programs if they do not possess a high school diploma or GED?
They are required to do 240 days of education if they do not have a high school diploma or GED. After 240 days, it used to be 120. I got it changed to 240 because 120, they were just dropping out because some of them were in literacy. They were only at like maybe intermediate low by that point. And they're like, what's the point? So, but we got it changed to 240. Many of them were able to get to the GED program at that point. And that then, I mean, what's the point of leaving now? You're in the GED class, right? So it is raising, it's raising the waitlist numbers because now we have more people staying in classes. However, it's also raising our people who are going through the program and staying in the program. So it's a good on one side, but it had an unfortunate side effect that we weren't thinking of.
Keep some people out, yeah.
Yeah. So now, but they have to have a GED or high school diploma to get into the occupational training programs with labor. So we don't require them to go into the occupational programs, but when they're in the GED class, the occupational teachers come in and talk to them about what programs are available. Even our post-secondary, like our colleges, will come and speak to them too, so that they know the options that they have. They'll give them a brochure of everything that's available throughout the state. So if they want to transfer somewhere, but yeah, they're not required to do the occupational post-secondary, only the GED.
Yeah, that year that we got, it was 3 years ago, we got the 240 put in. I know the Secretary of Public Safety, Green, and I had an argument about he wanted that, but not the incentive program. The incentive program was to, when you get a diploma, you get so many more months off a sentence.
Right.
And I pulled punch on him. Only time in my life I can say I got political. I knew Rob Green. I was a good friend of his because I ran his programs for 5 years. He gave a contract to our Teachers Association, which I was head of the National Association, because they lost contracts in Montgomery County. They could only hire nonprofits. I hired their teachers. I ran a program. So I said to Rob Green during the hearings, the Judiciary Committee, you owe me big time. I ran your program for 5 years. I want the incentive program. And he said, okay, I'll drop opposition. That's politics.
We
And that was-
absolutely needed that incentive, like to
According to,
stay in the school. Yeah.
Okay, in the interest of time,
Okay.
Diane, may I please
Renee,
finish
we
what I-
haven't heard
Go
from
ahead,
you.
Adam.
Is there anything-
I'm sorry.
I was
Adam.
never able to finish what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm
Right.
sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
That's okay. So according to Comar, under the Department of Labor, case management for DPSCS is responsible for the oversight of correctional education, mandatory educational programming, and workforce skills training program. I'm reading this from Comar.
Yes. That's why my job exists.
So why are you unable to get this data? if
Question.
DPSCS case management is responsible for all of it, why aren't you able to get it?
Very good question.
I think we
Well,
have,
you
an-
just said you're responsible for it, so I guess I don't understand. I don't understand.
Well, we don't
Maybe then the point of,
It's
maybe
not
then,
by a
please
lack
let
of
me finish.
asking.
Maybe the
It's
point,
not by a lack of
please
asking.
stop interrupting me. Maybe the point of this subcommittee then should be to figure that out.
Adam,
I
you're
can't
absolutely
talk.
right.
I can't say the reason. But
Adam, can I
It's
give
just
you?
not happening.
Yeah,
What
quickly.
you're
Yeah,
asking
quickly.
is an exact example today of what you're asking and what we're getting. We sent a questionnaire. These questions were not new. They were sent many times. They were sent earlier, several months ago, in some other format. They were not given to us without pulling teeth, and we only got partial answers. This is what Dollar does, unfortunately, and that's
Well,
Prior to
I just keep hearing like, well, it's supposed to come from them, and they don't have it, and then we're trying to get it here. And it's like, well, there's one group that is overseeing all of it, that is responsible for it, that isn't doing it.
They
Well-
used to. Prior to 2023, we would get the data, we got the reports, but that ended.
all right.
So this may be part of the recommendation from both, from us, but also the commission. So, just doing a time check here. I want to do a quick summary of where we're going for next steps. And we have a March meeting. I think it's, Ainsley, help me. I think it's the 27th of March, same time, same place, I think. But,
I can't make it because I'm on my way back from Europe that time. I would just request, since it's an important meeting, I'm in, if we could put it back a week later,
we can talk about that offline,
if you
okay?
can.
But also wanted to bring up, is there any update on the site visits?
We were gonna wait till after we got our interim report.
Okay,
And now that's up in the air because this is new legislation to eliminate the interim report. So we were gonna go like anyway in May.
okay, so we don't, okay.
We
Ainsley,
are
did you
gonna
have your
do
hand
them.
up? Did you have your hand up? No, okay. All right, so we've got several areas. Clearly, we didn't have the data that we asked for, that we need. There's like 5 different things of data sets that we're gonna try again to get for clarification. And Adam's gonna check on how fast the wait list moves in MCE, and several other CEC reports. So that's it in a nutshell. Did I miss anything?
Are you gonna just send us could you send us, like Adam's gotta do this, Steve's got, I got notes here, but I want to make sure that what you think I gotta do, I'll do for the commission with Ainsley. And I will take to heart what Adam said. We're not getting the data that we requested, that public safety requested, but I want to know specifically how you want me to ask these questions.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk offline in email, probably later today if possible, while my brain still has it and my
Correct.
notes. Okay.
And Diana, can
Any
I just
other-
really quick?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I very quickly just want to say, as Secretary Scruggs designee on this committee, there's only so much I can say.
Right.
And there's only so much that we can do and ask for. And that's all I can say.
Well, we can ask for more. And we might not get it, but we have some authority from the governor to say, hey, wait. And so I take Adam to heart, really. And I'm sorry for interrupting. We talk a lot, so just tell us to shut up. Don't mind. And Danielle and I are guilty of doing this. And I apologize.
They have a lot to say. And Danielle, to your point, we hear you. And it's probably that's where we can come in to ask where and when you can't. So, all righty. All right. Anything else for the good of the cause? And we'll update you. Probably the March meeting will be moved back to early April, unless there's a problem with that. And then we'll get to you. And then Steve, you and I'll talk soon with Ainsley. Let's do a 3-way, because I can't talk and take good notes all the time either. So, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And Daniel has to go too. So we all have a 10 o'clock. So see you all soon. Thank you again for your time.
All right.
Bye.
And thank you, Renee, for sitting in for the delegate. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Bye.